Hello and welcome to the Brick News, the weekly show on all things brick building, where we talk about set updates and announcements from all the major brands, usually mocks of the week, as an extra section as well. However, this week we will rather talk about the new LEGO ideas round, lots of interesting designs and stuff to explore. And however, we also have a few reading recommendations as well. So, however, we will get started with set updates for this week. And here we start first with BAKA as we go through the brands in alphabetical order. And here we do have a new set from the Valley Twilight series, kind of the high elven, high fantasy series that they have. 33240 is the newest one, Bridge of Courage. This thing you can purchase from Asia for around $100 or including original box for around $120 US. That is roughly 3.2 cents a piece. However, keep in mind, as always, when I talk about prices from Chinese retailers, depending on where you live, taxes, shipping, etc., your mileage may vary greatly. However, we have talked about this series before. Many sets have been announced, and of course the core idea is that based on that you can build your entire elvish city. Of course, I guess that this thing is highly influenced by Lord of the Rings, Rivendell. It has a certain vibe that LEGO had with the Rivendell set, but of course this thing is much larger in its core design. It's actually a huge design, which I must say I really like. Beautiful sets, beautiful designs. However, BAKA is a brand of the same company or brand of Kunlong. So these are decent pieces, but I think not comparable to LEGO or Cobi or brands like that. So please keep that in mind when thinking about the price point. With that, moving on to BlueBrixx, and here we have a couple of availabilities. First, another train set, BR642 Baureihe. That's a German saying it because that is a German regional train, if you will, 108482. I guess this is an 8-stud train, so not a small set, 1,729 pieces. We have talked about this one before. It is now on shelves for 80 euros. That is the standard pricing for over here in Central Europe. Please keep in mind, from those of you from across the pond, that in Europe, as always, that includes value-add tax because we have a certain different tax regime over here. 4.6 cents a piece, not too bad. Also available is the Municipal Sewer Cleaner 108336. I think about this one, we have talked about this one actually in July last year. So it took BlueBrixx quite a while, which I think also answers the question. I get asked that from time to time, like after announcement, because BlueBrixx has a very different announcement policies than most other brands. Most brands announce a new set maybe 2 weeks before they have it on shelves. BlueBrixx does this usually like 6 months up front, but it can take even longer. And in this case, it was like almost a year. 390 pieces though. It's going to cost you 19 euros, 4.9 cents a piece. Also available is the transporter for mobile toilets, 108502. 337 pieces, 15 euros, 4.4 cents a piece. What is also available is the Rune Tower, 108487 for those of you castle fans. This thing is not small. It has 2,879 pieces. It is on 32 by 32 studs, and BlueBrixx is asking for 120 euros, 4.2 cents a piece. I think we talked about this set already when it was announced. Not much to add. It is a ruin, but I think actually quite a charmful one. I really like the tree work, the foliage, very nicely done. The walls themselves, for my personal taste, could use a little bit more greebling. They are a bit simple, but it is nevertheless, I think, a nice set. And also, if you're just interested in getting these pieces, because there's a ton of light bluish gray in there, pretty much a lot of standard bricks. So this could also be like an interesting set, maybe to build, have some fun with it, and then later on use it as a foundation for your own mock building aspirations. Mention of the Scary Family. 108993. This set comes without a license, but I'm pretty sure it was highly influenced by a certain pop cultural element. Anyhow, 900 pieces. This is an announcement at this point in time. It's exactly what I talked about before. Like at this point in time, we of course don't know what it's going to cost and when it's going to be on shelves. I expect something like half a year. It is roughly 7 by 8 inches and 6.5 inches height. So this is kind of an architecture stylized set. However, they also managed to throw a car in there, which is in this scale far from common. But yeah, here you go. Mention of the scary family. They also announced a passenger ferry, which I think is really nice. Something that not many brands have done yet. 108996, but of course something that is quite important, right? If you're working on your own brick built city, having decent civil ships that don't like kids' toys is actually not so easy to come by, right? I mean, most of the Lego stuff is basically Lego City. So if that is not your cup of tea, this Lego City kids design in quotes, then this may be for you. This thing is going to have 1,727 pieces. It is, again, only an announcement at this point in time. It's not a small ship, though. It's the entire diorama, because there's also the landing bridge part of that. Is landing bridge the correct name? Or maybe the, I don't know, it's more part of the harbor. So including the ship, it's going to be 18 inches width, or 45 or 46 centimeters. However, I think what is more interesting and gives you a better perspective is the length of the ship, and that is 23.5 inches, or almost 60 centimeters. So this set is not small. So it has 1,700 pieces, but I think they also used a lot of large pieces, a lot of large bricks. I mean, you may say it's a bit boring, right? It's not kind of a pirate ship or something like that, but I think it's exactly what, at least over here in Germany, is something you can see in our harbors for sure. With that, we're moving on to Cobi. And here, not many updates, actually. This is mostly an update, just letting you know that these sets, for instance, the Beechcraft T6 Texan and other Beechcraft airplanes, are now available over here in Europe. The first retailers have them now in stock. So I think based on that, you can do your calculations depending on where you live when you should be able to get your hands on those. Same is true for the Dornier Doge Wall, the Amundsen airplane. 1384 by Cobi, same story. We have now available in Europe. However, it is still on pre-order with most retailers. When I say availability, why can't you see it? Said to be what I don't do, I don't link to any retailers over here in Europe that only provide their sites in local language. Like, for instance, the German-speaking shop. I have seen these in stock with German shops, but they only have German websites. That's why I don't link them. I did the same in the past with Spanish or something like that. But what I will link is, of course, all the shops that have an English website. And here you are still on pre-order on both sides of the pond, actually. Same is true with the Rafale, which is now available in the Amazon UK marketplace for Great Britain, but not yet on the continent or across the pond. But BlueBrixx has it on pre-order, Brickmo in Austria as well. 530 pieces. Price varies between basically 50 quid and in North America $65 US. And the same story for the Volkswagen T2 buses in 1/35 scale. Same situation. We now have availability in Europe, both in the UK as well as, to my knowledge, on the continent. So, however, I have not yet seen those as pre-order in North America. However, I'm also pretty sure these Volkswagens are most and foremost for the European audience. Then we have added a new set to the database, and that is the Panzerkampfwagen 8 Maus Limited Edition 3137. So I will never have affiliate links on this one because limited edition is only sold by Cobi themselves, and Cobi is not an affiliate partner of mine because I think they don't do it. Anyhow, I just want to let you know this thing is now here. We have a ton of picture material from Cobi. It has 1,492 pieces, and I think what is special about the Maus, I mean, the Maus itself is kind of a weird thing because it was never a tank on the battlefield. It was like a very strange prototype project, kind of Nazi German craziness. I think they made like 1.5 prototypes basically of this thing. It was crazy. It would never have gone to the battlefield because it was just too heavy for anything. You couldn't transport it. It just couldn't go over any bridges, and I think even on most underground or most soil situations, this thing would not have been able to really move. It was just too heavy, too big. It was just craziness. It was kind of one of the weird things they did to make Hitler happy. Anyhow, What is cool about this thing from a Cobi perspective is that this is a very detailed set. It comes with a ton of interior. Of course, Cobi has nowadays the 1/12 scale tanks. We talked about those last week, but those are an entirely different game because they cost like $800 or something, and they have 12,000 or 11,000 pieces. But I think in the regular scale, this is one of the most detailed tanks Cobi has ever made, right? With a ton of interior on the inside, which I think is not just in the turret, but also in the tank itself, which I think is really cool. And because this is a limited edition, they also added like a bazillion extensions to this thing, or stuff that is just going on around, like an engine and a workplace, even schematics, lots of minifigures. So I think a very detailed set. With that, moving on to Funhole, and here we now have available both on the Amazon side as well as by the Funhole's own store, the ice cream shop, the newest set of the Town Life series 9078. I think I did talk about this one before. Yes, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, maybe, or 3 weeks ago. But this was back in the day still just from Chinese retailers. Now you have this also available in Western markets. And usually, I mean, it's only Amazon Marketplace, but usually as soon as that means that Funhole, it's Funhole's own store on these Amazon marketplaces, and usually it's shipped by Amazon. So that means it's on site. You don't have to import it. It's already in the region. So usually I think Funhole goes with European Union, UK and US and Canada. I think these are the 4 Funhole marketplaces that they operate with Amazon. Anyhow, let's move on to GULY. Here we have a new set from the Raceforge series. So the name, I just called it the Orange SUV because it's a bit strange. So GULY, at least I cannot figure it out, but it seems they don't give their sets any names. Just Raceforge series, block assembling. You see right here the box art. And I don't have a name for the set, so that's why they all have these weird names. But anyhow, 10642, these are very large Technic sets. GULY has done a ton of them. We actually have a ton of reviews also on the site, community reviews. Oh no, I'm sorry, I'm mistaken. This is on the German version of the site. I think we don't have any English-speaking reviews. But what I can tell you is that these are usually very detailed sets that come both in a static as well as in dynamic version, i.e. with RC or RC controlled. So usually they have both. They have a lot of functionality usually. So these are very complex Technic sets. They sometimes also come with strange or more exotic, I should rather say. It's a positive thing, colors. So they do lots of metallic stuff and things like that. This one here seems to be a bit more standard. It's also 1/8 scale. Like I said, GULY is doing a lot of these, usually like 4 to 5 per year. This thing has almost 4,000 pieces, and like I said, you can get in both options. The price difference is basically $50, so $150 US roughly for the static version and $200 for the RC version, which is not too shabby. And like I said, there's a lot of functionality using these. GULY always, I think they never come with a license. That means, of course, this is a Mercedes G-Class, but they can't call it thus because, you know, it is. It does not come with a license. It's not a small set, 22 inches in length and 10 width and almost 12 inches height, or 27 by 56 centimeters and 30 centimeters in height. So this is not a small set, like I said, 1/8 scale. With that, moving on to Happy Build or Power Block to be more precise, like I said in the past, this is currently, there's a ton of brands belonging all to the same company, but it's a Power Block 8829, the heavy duty truck. This is an amazing thing. It has 1,600 pieces, so it's very large. So Power Block, usually all the sets that are right now under this brand are cars, basically. They also had these Audi racing, what was it? It was like, okay, it was like 3 cars in a box, but in general, it is cars in a scale that is very similar to what Lego would call a speed champion. So, what they've done in the past is that with all of these cars, they delivered also one of these plastic boxes, basically like containers, if you will. So all of these sets come in one of these containers, and this truck is able to carry 2. It seems that it also comes with 2 of these containers. So basically what that means is you can just use a car from another brand like Lego or Mould King, who make the cars in this size, and just throw them in. Or that's at least me guessing at this point in time. You can just, you know, throw in 2 of the containers that you already have. I mean, I think this is a really cool idea. But plus I also really like the truck. Definitely a set that I intend to build. Really looking forward to this one. A beautiful set, very well done. And also, at least my experience, I've built only 1 car yet from this brand, from Powerblock, but the pieces are from BlueBrixx, or at least have been when I was building them, which are very high quality, basically same quality as the Europeans have. And they come with a ton of pot printed pieces as well. So I'm really looking forward. There seems to be a lot of chrome pieces in this one as well, or at least metallic silver pieces. So I'm also really looking forward to this one. It's going to cost you $80 US from a Chinese retailer, in this case, 5 cents a piece. That's nothing to complain about. With the quality that you get with these sets, I would say these Powerblock sets are worth every penny. With that, we're moving on to GULY, and here we have another large Technic set, 1x8 scale as well, 3,428 pieces, the 92110. Super Racing, it has a generic name because the same situation again comes without a license. Again, it's not GULY, it's a different brand. They do, however, keep in mind, GULY is using pieces actually from GULY, so from a Technic quality point of view, they should be the same. However, I guess the amount of functions will be different. Anyhow, this thing also comes in a static as well as in dynamic or motorized RC controlled version. $135 US for this for the static version. Again, like I said, Chinese retailers, check out your own prices, your own shipping costs, etc., and tax, of course, or customs. However, this thing only gonna cost you roughly 35 additional dollars for the dynamic version, which I guess means that there will not be as many functions. In fact, based on this picture here, you have basically just the drivetrain and lights and steering, of course. That's about that. Usually GULY sets come with a lot more functions, so I think that is something that you cannot directly compare. It's not a small set though, 23 inches in length, 11 width, and 5.5 in height. So yes, it's for sure it does not have the same height as a Mercedes G-Class. Basically, I remember, a friend of mine, I'm a German, southern Germany, you know the drill. A friend of mine, like many friends of mine, are engineers in the automotive industry, and he's working for AMG actually. And he once told me, when we talked about these G-Class AMG thingies, and he just said, okay, that's like, driving a closet across the highway with a rocket in the back. That's basically what you do. And yeah, so this thing should be a lot more aerodynamic. Anyhow, let's move on to another GULY set. By the way, I should mention that, I keep mentioning this like every week. In this news show, I will not talk about every new set, because in the set DB, we are adding roughly, 100 sets a week. I just can't do it. There's so much stuff going on nowadays, and we are adding more and more brands. And of course, with more and more brands in the database, we have now more than 70. That also means we will add every week a lot more sets. So I can only pick a few. Keep that in mind. So if you're really interested in all of them, you check out the newly added tab in the set DB. And I would even recommend, if you really don't want to miss anything, use one of the many RSS feeds. So whenever we have a page in the setDB or on the website merlinsbricks.com, setdb.org, there's this small RSS button, and it's like, okay, if you say, okay, I'm interested in every new set, or I'm only interested in new sets by Aaron Newman, or I'm only interested in every new Lego set, for instance, you will find on all these pages this RSS button. This is always an individual RSS feed for the stuff you're interested in. So use an RSS reader, and then you can be absolutely sure that you won't miss anything, because it's so much stuff nowadays. We are now at 23,780 sets from 71 brands. So just as an FYI, because I just mentioned it because I know that GULY released a ton of new stuff in the last couple of days. So I just picked from the smaller ones the new stand because I found it so curious from its design perspective. 9197, 834 pieces, $30 US from Chinese retailers. The fun thing about it is, first of all, it has a very interesting design. There's a ton. I mean, it's called a newsstand, and yes, there is a newsstand, but you see like all this large amount of flowers are just in your face, if you will. But what I found even more curious is that you have this newsstand, but it's almost impossible for, somebody who want to buy a newspaper to get to the stand because there's so many flowers, and then you have this sitting place, etc., etc. But it is a beautiful design. I really like it. It's small, like 8 by 6.5 inches, 6 inches high. But yeah, it does look really, really, really beautiful. With that, moving on to Lego. 2 new announcements I want to talk about. I will talk about the Simpsons set next week, I hope. But this week, we can talk about the Icons Shuttle Carrier Aircraft 10360. This has been announced by Lego very short term because it will actually release when I record this. It is May the 14th. So May 15th, you will be able to buy it a couple of hours from now, which is crazy because, yeah, like I said, they just announced it a few days ago. It has 2,470 pieces. They already managed to get a couple of reviews out together with their media partners, i.e. Lego Ambassador, folks who are in the Lego Ambassador program, which I'm, of course, not. But Tiago has already a review out, Racing Brick and Brothers Brick as well. So you have it all there. So I guess those of you who are interested already know everything that there needs to be known. Just as an FYI, it's going to cost you $230 US. And it is basically a space shuttle on a Boeing 747, as far as I know. Like I said, 2,417 pieces you get for your money, and this is not a small set. It's roughly 20 by 25 inches and 11 inches height, or 53 by 63 centimeters, 27 centimeters in height. I think it's a nice set. Personally, I would have preferred, because they have done a space shuttle before, a much larger one, of course, throw in all the pieces and just get, the airplane to carry it. That would have been nice, but I guess this would have been too much to ask for. Plus, I'm not even sure if you can still buy the original space shuttle that they did like 3 years ago or 4 years ago. But yeah, I think the carrier aircraft has always been like a very curious, strange thing that they did. But here you go, you have a Boeing. I think what is interesting about this one is that, as far as I can tell, it has working landing gear. There's even quite a complex, and complex is a big word, but there's a technic mechanism to throw these out. I think the Concorde had something similar as well, if I recall correctly. Next to that, from a design perspective, I think the Lego team did a decent job. Personally, I admire when folks try to get these kind of shapes done with regular pieces, but I must admit that the Cobi stuff usually looks better. Cobi has done 747s like 2 years ago, I think. They are still in the market. They may be a little bit smaller. Personally, I think I prefer the look. And this is not usually the case. But Cobi, of course, what they do is they use a lot of very large form pieces to get especially the nose and stuff like that done. Lego is trying to do this with regular pieces, which of course, has its limits. All in all, I think they've done a very good job. It's just not easy to make these, especially in this size. I guess this thing gets easier if you make this set bigger, but here you go. Anyhow, the other thing is a new idea set. Disney's Pixar's Luxo Junior 27357. I think one of the most famous desk lamps of all time. 613 pieces, and this one is going to cost you $70 US. Similar situation as with the other set, by means that Lego has already handed this thing out to their media partners. However, as far as I can tell, at least the set DB has only picked up written reviews at this point in time by Jay's Brick blog, Bricks fans and the Brick fan. So stuff is already out there. However, there is a little bit more time because this thing will not release until June first. And like I said, Lego's asking for $70 US. But what you can see already, by the way, it's also 70 euros over here in Europe. But BrickMo, like I said, Austrian retailer, has already on pre-order for 54. This is a good sign that this thing will go into regular retail. And as a result, we may see some interesting spicy discounts. Going forward, Mould King. Here we have a sports car transporter 24078. Similar as the power block idea, like it's a transport, a truck, basically for cars in a Speed Champion or Speed Champion similar format. They throw in 2 cars on their own. I'm actually not 1% sure if a Lego Speed Champion would fit into this truck. I guess it should, but that's something that, yeah, you have to check out for yourself. This thing has 997 pieces only, so a lot less compared to the power block thing. And actually, I would personally also prefer the power block design. However, it's going to cost you, I think you can buy this thing from your WOP in China for around $35 US. So that's a lot less compared to the power block thing. I generally do believe this thing is more like for kids, while the power block thing is, I guess, more for the grown-up collector. With that, moving on to Reobrix, and they do have a Maserati license, so they could make a Maserati Gran Turismo 11010. It's a 1x8 scale Technic set. Again, we had a lot of these this week, 5,480 pieces, and they also use JIESTAR pieces. So again, similar quality point. And you can pre-order this thing from China for $210 US. So yes, it's going to cost you more, but it does come with a license. I also like the design. And of course, with the license comes also a ton, not a ton, but several printed pieces with the Maserati logo, which is of course otherwise very hard to come by. It's again not a small set. So this is 62 centimeters in length. That's almost 24.5 inches. And like I said, they come with printed pieces. I think this is a 4-seater as far as I know. So I believe there should be several prints in there. However, if you look in the cockpit, they say this on the box. This is cool. And oh no, I said printed pieces. Even the seats have stickered pieces, and the cockpit is stickered as well. So yeah, maybe no prints. Maybe I was entirely wrong. I assumed that these were prints, but it seems they are only stickers. It's Reobrix. I should have known because I've built a couple of their sets and they only come with stickers. So yeah, maybe a sticker thing. With that, moving on to the Beetle family by TUOMU 3010. I picked this one because I really like the design. It's just a couple of insects, and they look quite nice brick design. I also like this box art that they did around of it. You know, feels a little bit like an aquarium, but I think overall it's quite nice. But yeah, I'm not really into insects, but I want to let you know that this thing is now there. $22 US, in this case from China. With that, we're moving on to Wange, and here we have, in Europe at least, 2 new architecture sets available. I've not seen these with any Chinese retailers, which sometimes happen with Wange, that, you know, you see them only with European retailers. But you can buy this thing now from BlueBrixx. In this case, not BlueBrixx making sets, but BlueBrixx just selling them and importing them. BlueBrixx actually in both businesses with their shop. 1,182 pieces, 50 euros, 42 cents a piece for the Roby house. I think I did talk about this one before. I think it's like a milestone of modern architecture. And so I guess also maybe interesting for folks from North America, because this is where you can find this house. However, like I said, I've only seen it with European retailers so far. The same is true for the Rockefeller Center in New York, 5248, 928 pieces. So this one is interesting, I believe. A Rockefeller Center, of course, very interesting topic. I just recently built a mock by SP Bricks, basically doing the exactly same thing, but like with 6,000 pieces. Was a bit crazy. So Wange, I've built a few sets from them. Usually they don't come with printed pieces except the plaque. So my fear is that all of this stuff with the windows that you see here is stickers. I just built, I can't recall, it was Stonehenge, I think it was. I built the Stonehenge set from them, and it was all stickers. I think I did talk in this show about the review. And it was really a bit of a disappointment. You basically got 2 large sticker sheets. So I fear this is the case here as well, but I just don't know. Nevertheless, I think it's a very nice design. It looks very beautiful, considering its size. Of course, the BlueBrixx mock looked a lot cooler, but it had like 6 times the pieces. With that, moving on to a couple of reading recommendations, I did review the new Luke Skywalker brickhead. The other brickhead set that LEGO made for this year's May the 4th wave, I have actually on my desk right now in front of me. And I will write a review, but this is the first one, 40795. So if you're interested in this one, I did review it. It's a nice brickhead and has all the bells and whistles that a brickhead has, but also the drawbacks. Like, I just can't stand why they're doing this pink and green stuff on the inside. It's really awful. I think Star Wars is one of the most awful lines in that regard from LEGO. So I don't know. I just can't stand it. Maybe I'm still burnished by the Razor Crest UCS set, which I think was one of the coolest sets LEGO's ever made, but there was so much rainbow colored garbage on the inside. It was like awful. And with the UCS Razor Crest, you could, remove the roof. And as soon you did this, basically the rainbow was jumping in your face. It was really awful. But anyhow, I do like what they did here with Luke Skywalker's brickhead, especially the print. Really like the visor, the trans orange thing. Really cool, and because it's on top of the regular eyes. It's a very simple design, but it's just amazing. This is how you could do glasses in a nutshell with a brickhead, which is really cool. I think the prints really add to it. He's also carrying a lightsaber. Don't know. I think in this uniform, at least not in the first movie in New Hope, he never did that. Maybe in The Empire Strikes Back, I guess you could argue. But yeah, I think it is a beautiful set, nice design, and brickheads have never been increased by LEGO in price since their introduction, which I think is the only series by LEGO who got that treatment in recent years. Anyhow, let's move on to 2 contributions by Brett to our portfolio of reviews. He's kind of a helm specialist himself. He did a lot of mocks. There's a lot of helmets by him on Rebrickable in the past. He did an amazing job there, and unfortunately he stopped a little bit. He's not that active on Rebrickable anymore, but he's still writing for us, and he took a look at the new helmet. Like, I think he's kind of a helm nerd. He buys them all. Anyhow, the Jango Fett helmet 75408, which is quite interesting. I mean, of course, as being an expert and a collector of these things, he really looked into how the building techniques have improved. As far as I can tell, the 8080 driver helmet impressed him a lot more, but even here he was able to point out a couple of, let's say, improvements that they did over the previous design, even from the silver Mandalorian helmet, like getting the shapes better, getting more interesting angles in, which is quite interesting. So yeah, definitely you could see how the LEGO team managed to improve over the years, going from Boba Fett to the Mandalorian, or to Din Djarin, and to Jango Fett. He also took a look at the Kylo Ren helmet. Interesting here is that the Kylo Ren helmet comes with a ton of printer pieces, and including, a lot of pieces and a lot of markers that are also in the other sets, but in the other sets, LEGO did them with stickers. So no idea why they decided to print them here. But of course, it is a lot better, and the set is, because of that, not that much more expensive. What is also interesting is that Brett, in this case, made a comparison a little bit, at least to his own mock, which I think is one of his oldest ones. And I think he also figured out, okay, there's some stuff that I, could improve now looking at what LEGO is doing. But it also shows that you don't need to print that much. You could also use building techniques. Last but not least, I did build also Kylo Ren's Command Shuttle 75407 Starship Collection. I don't want to go too deep into it. It was hard for me to review because, maybe it was not. I mean, in general, my problem is that I just can't stand the sequels. They are just so awful in every way, shape, or form. I'm a prequel guy, can't help it, like the original trilogy as well, but these sequels are just weird in every way. But I really like the ship, always liked the design. I loved, I think we don't have it anymore, but maybe we still do, the last playset that they did, the black one, not the gray one. Really like this one as well. I think the shape of the ship is just amazing. These wings are so impressive. And also when this thing is sitting, it looks really cool. It is an amazing Lucasfilm iteration of the original Imperial shuttle, I would say. Really love it. And LEGO did a great job depicting this one. The only issue is a little bit that, especially if you look at this picture, the underside of the wings is for sure not what, you know, the problem is that Lego is not really using that many inverted tiles. They don't have inverted wedge plate tiley thingies, and they don't use parts like companies like Cobi would use in order to invert building direction. Lego, in simply said, in order to change building direction like Snod, Lego needs more pieces than other companies do, like Cobi, right? Because Cobi has different pieces. As a result, with Cobi pieces, you could make a much cleaner wing. You can't do this with Lego, and this is a bit of a shame because I think the underside of the wings doesn't look the best. But in general, a very nice set. The problem from my point of view is the price point. It's just weird. It's just so expensive, and I have no idea why they believe that they can pull this off. And this is really a shame because this would be an amazing set, but it's definitely $20, maybe even $30 overpriced. It's 18 cents a piece and 19 cents per gram. That's just too much. Sorry, it's far too much. It's crazy, and I don't understand why. But the design is quite nice. With that, we're moving on, like I discussed or said before, to the new 2025 Lego Ideas round. Actually, the first round. I mean, usually they do 3, I think. In general, I guess most of you know, but the way Lego Ideas work is that folks upload their design ideas. Always keep in mind, Lego Ideas is about ideas. It's not the Bricklin Designer program. Lego is not obligated. In fact, almost never does, like, just publish original design. It is an idea. It's a brick build idea. And then Lego will come up with a set, which may look or not like the original ideas entry. Sometimes they get very close, sometimes they're very far away. For instance, the lamp we just talked about, the Pixar thing, this is very close to the original design, but sometimes they go in a very different direction. For various reasons, most of the times a lot of ideas entries just have a ton of pieces, and Lego needs to reduce this because otherwise these sets get too expensive. That's basically it. Anyhow. And of course, it needs to be easily buildable and very stable. So, long story short, you upload your idea, people can vote for it, everyone can do, you can do it, everyone can do it. And when something has 10,000 supporters, then basically Lego puts it in this round. So basically what they did is now May 5th, they said, okay, since early January until May 5th, these sets, in this case 57, it's getting more and more. When I started this, we were usually in the ballpark of 30. In the old days, it was like a dozen. Nowadays, we are moving or closing into 60 because the platform is getting more and more popular. Lego is getting bigger and bigger, but they have never reached the 10,000 supporters, actually. So, long story short, it's now 57 entries, and basically the Lego Ideas team will now look into it and then decide on their own, like, okay, let's make 1 or 2 sets or maybe 3 out of these. That's the idea. And so what we can now do is just talk about the 57 entries and maybe speculate a little bit which one of these will end up in a set. As always, I've created a news post for you. Lego is doing an own blog post. However, I think mine is better because what you can do is here just press excuse me, with the mouse on one of the images, and you get a full screen gallery, and you can just, for instance, use your keyboard or a switch on a smartphone. You can just go through the pictures, and then you see down below, I think this should work also on smartphone, basically the name of the mark and as well as the design. I think that is a much easier way to get through 57 design ideas. And that is exactly what we will do now as fast as I can. Let's see if I can manage to stay below 22 minutes. I failed horribly in the German version and went beyond an hour. And if I go beyond an hour with the new show, it means I can't upload it on TikTok. However, I think TikTok folks never watch anything that is above 60 seconds anyhow. Taylor Swift Lover House by Verbal Melon 046. I think it's a beautiful design. I think it's one of maybe the best Lover House design I've seen yet on Lego Ideas, at least the ones that I saw. Pretty sure I missed a couple because there have been a ton. And a ton of those made the 10,000 supporters, which means it would be very unfair if Lego would now pick this one, because, of course, there were like 10 people who had the idea of Lover House, and now, why should they pick this one? What they've done in the past is that they basically shared contributions or payment between all of these givers, but because Labor House has been in here like forever, I think it would be complicated for them to do. So I don't know, maybe they come up with a new way to do this, but that's why I don't think it's gonna happen. Medieval Knight by TUOMU. TUOMU always available for beautiful designs, and I think this one here is beautiful as well. Lego will not make it, at least not like this, too many metallic pieces, but it is a beautiful design, a bit abstract, but I really like the art behind this one. Really beautiful. I think not really Lego Ideas material. The Jukebox with Bluetooth speaker by Brickmaster84. I don't know exactly what with Bluetooth speaker means. I guess you can throw one in like a boombox. Fantasy is actually making a jukebox right now. I think it's, or they have just made one. So personally, I don't need a Lego set for it, but who knows? I mean, Lego has done a lot of gadgets like this, or gadget or thingy sets in the past. What I really like from an art perspective is Love Enlighten Me, The Bench of the Lamppost in Love by Leo Adri. Beautiful design. I don't know if you can pull this off with Reobrix. I think you should. It's a very simple design, doesn't need many pieces. Definitely think Lego should do it, but yeah, it's a bit simple. Twice, Fancy by Space Pepsi. Yeah, I mean, it's fancy. I think it's license driven. It would be a license driven set, not really my cup of tea, but yeah, a couple of interesting building ideas in there for sure. Part 2, Core Placement Station. It's about time that Lego's doing a couple of new cool video game related sets, and I do believe they should definitely one day do one with Portal. I don't know if it needs to be exactly this one. I really like this one. The Core Placement Station looks cool. I mean, Portal, I think it's one of the two Portal games, I guess, are some of the best that have ever been made. I think they are one of the masterpieces of computer gaming history. However, I still believe they have been a bit niche. So I don't know. I think there are other licenses that are more interesting for Lego, but here you go. It is pretty cool done. An airplane, Nolinor Boeing 737-200 by Design and Create. Yeah, it's an airplane. They just made one. We talked about it a couple of minutes ago, so that's why I'm pretty sure they will not make one. And next to that, I think it's a decent built airplane. Like I said, airplane shapes, not easy to do. E.T., the Extraterrestrial by Lafabrick. Very nice E.T. depiction. Personally, and I don't know, I've been discussing this with folks, like, I'm not sure if the color is correct. I mean, yes, he's not sick at this point in time, so he has a darker color, but still, I don't know, it's not easy to do. I think the exact color doesn't exist, but the question is, this is like a medium nougat, I think, a light nougat. Would that be better? Wouldn't that be better? But next to that, I'm pretty sure Lego will not make one. I don't know. They have to recolor a ton of pieces. That's what I think. And I don't know if they're willing to do that. Maybe a smaller one. And then to Heartstopper, Be Yourself by BlueBrixx. Yeah. It's one of these room thingies that are, I guess, also driven by a license. I think it's really nice from the interior perspective. However, we will come to a few of these kind of sets in this series that I actually prefer. Actually, my favorite, one of my favorites also for the entire round is the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Banks Mansion by Ileho. I think this one is just beautifully done. I mean, next to that Prince of Bel-Air is, I think, something that I watched as a kid a lot. But in general, I think what I really like about this one is just the entire design. The color scheme is great. There are a couple of interesting shapes in there and angles, which I think is, yeah, that's, for instance, something that always puts apart, for me personally, Central Perk by Lego, because the Lego design team did such an amazing job, also with the angles, the shapes. It was just much more interesting than just, you know, a square room or a square sitcom set, if you will. And I think some of that is also in here as well. And like I said, I love the colors. Would love to have these minifigures. Quite amazing. Then the Lego DNA 2.0 Double Helix History by DNA Double Helix. So the account name already says what the set is all about, or the idea. And yeah, it's a double helix. Personally, I must say, especially the large one, I don't know. I think maybe there are better building techniques to do this. I'm not sure, but for sure, if that is all Lego can do, then better don't do it. Personally, not really my cup of tea, but I like the system build really on the right side. So yeah, maybe not my thing. What I'm really a huge fan of, one of my favorites also from this round, is La Katrina by Job 1172. What a artwork masterpiece. I think this is really amazing. I'm not sure if Lego would do it. I mean, I guess it's too subtle, too artsy in its way. It's not really Lego, right? Lego is usually a bit more in your face. The designs are more simple to understand. But this thing is just beautiful, and it must be huge. I mean, count the stats here. This thing is like, I don't know, it's not like 1 by 1 scale, but it's a huge thing. I mean, I would love Lego. I mean, from my point of view, just do this thing exactly like it is here. No idea how robust it's gonna be, but this is a perfect design. Really love it. The Mushrooms collection by Kejab. I think personally a little bit too simple for me from the building technique perspective, but why not? Let's do mushrooms. I would actually prefer these mushrooms, the Smurf Village by the Half-Blood Baron. I don't know. I've watched this as a kid. I don't know how popular this is. And it was very popular when I was a kid in Germany. But yeah, I would love to have these dudes as minifigures. That would be amazing. In Bricklink Designer Program by Jonas Kram, they did these mushroom house designs as well. Amazing designs, beautiful. On the other hand, if they have something very similar in the Bricklink Designer Program, why should they do this idea? So I'm pretty sure they will not do it, but it is a great idea. Then the Ramen by Migdat. This is really cool from an artsy point of view. Why not? I mean, they're doing all this botanical stuff nowadays. Let's move into food. And there are a couple of very cool building techniques. Really love the idea with the minifigure hands here, but also the eggs and everything and the mushrooms. It is great stuff. I mean, why not? Let's do this. We have now botanical sets. Let's go into food, because you can do amazing stuff with food that looks beautiful. Ancient Roman Temple by Magical Eel. I'm pretty sure that I've talked about this one years ago. I think this is maybe one of the re-entries. Love the idea though. We can't have enough Roman stuff. Would love Lego to make Roman architecture set, Roman minifigures. Let's go. I mean, they did an amazing Roman minifigure quite some time ago in the minifigure collection series, I guess. I guess these are also these two figures here. Let's go for it. More Roman stuff. Count me in. Then the ends Ascensor da BAKA. Pretty sure I pronounced this entirely wrong, by Peter Designs. Beautiful design. Absolutely beautiful. However, it is only like a shallow diorama, if you will. These are not full buildings. They're just 3 or 4 studs deep, but it's a cool concept. Really, really, really like it. With that, moving on to Rinley Shannon-Claw's Lifeboat by the Cranky Buffalo. Pretty cool lifeboat design. I've never seen one of these kind of trailer thingies, but the boat itself is really nicely done. I mean, the truck, lorry, whatever it is also very well done. I just have never seen one of those. I don't know, this design, yeah, I'm not really sure, like, which country is that? Can somebody help me out here? But definitely like the design. Looks pretty cool. Would love to have a boat. And it seems that the hull is entirely brick built, which is always something that I highly appreciate. Then we have the Roman Thermae, the Roman Bath by Jungle Scream. Again, Roman. It's entirely white. I don't think that this is accurate. The Romans actually did like their colors, to my knowledge, like the Greeks. The problem is that all the color is gone, and because of that, we have sometimes the feeling that all these Roman and old Greek buildings were all like white marble stuff, like white or tan, but actually they did like their colors. It's just the problem is that the colors are all gone. Anyhow, like I said before, more Roman stuff is great, and this is actually a pretty large mark. So yeah, would love Lego to make one. Actually, Roman Bath would be pretty cool. An Apple Store by Lumibricks. By far not the first mock I've seen of an Apple Store, and yes, Apple Stores have amazing designs, and to have this as a brick build set would be absolutely appreciated. Would love to have it. On the other hand, you have like a bazillion trans-clear panel in here, and panel are not that scratch resistant, so not really my cup of tea. Or no, that's unfair to say. I would love to have it. It's just I think this is a set that would make you unhappy over time. Then the Ohio State University Marching Band. I'm pretty sure some students from the Ohio State University or alumni did help out to get the 10,000 votes. But yeah, congratulations, folks. The Periodic Table of the Elements by Drachensteine. General great idea. I would personally still love to have a periodic table of all the Lego colors. As a set, why not? Go for it. This one here would just be a bazillion prints, right? That's the problem. The periodic table at the end of the day is a document, and a brick build document just doesn't make any sense. Basically, you just need the prints. You don't need to do anything brick build. But it's cool that folks voted for it. And then we have Rob Ross, The Joy of Building by Econombricks. Yes, Rob Ross, absolutely, let's go for it. I want this set. I definitely want it. And actually, I also really like the design here, but I don't know. I'm from Europe. I think Rob Ross has never been a big thing. Actually, I came through general pop culture references on him, but it's just so amazing. I don't know. I would love to have it. Cool design as well. Civil engineering, types of bridges. Pretty sure it's even called Revisited, because I'm pretty sure I talked about this one before. Mockingbird, nothing has changed. Cool idea. Maybe something Lego should do, actually. There's a little bit, let's get some architecture history into the portfolio, because Lego is really lacking a little bit in the architecture section nowadays. Golden Girls by Martin Studio. I've never watched Golden Girls. I'm pretty sure it's a very tiny sitcom diorama, if you will. So it reminds me a little bit of the Big Bang Theory that Lego did in the very early days. I think back in the days, was it already called Ideas? Or now I think it was Cusco or whatever the name was back in the day, which I've built. It's cool. But in general, why not? Let's do a smaller one. What I really like again about this one here is that it has a little bit more interesting angles. At least a few, but yeah, because I'm not really a fan, I can't really talk much about it. Kinetic Tin Toy by Four Eyes Guys. Yeah, I don't know. It is quite nice. I'm pretty sure there was once a toy who looked like this. I don't know. I have some it feels familiar, but I just can't point out why exactly. But yeah. Here you go, Kinetic Tin Toy. Then we have The Old Man and the Sea. I mean, this is such a famous book by such a famous author. It's about time that somebody makes a set from it. This one here has a cool design. It's a little bit over the top from my point of view. I'm also like the colors are a little bit too much for my personal taste. But I would love to have a set on this one by Ian Ha, by the way. Then the Big Mouse Belly Bass. This is a design that I don't really understand. It must be some reference here by the designer Rafi that I don't understand. But yeah, it's a fish on a wooden plate. I guess this is the kind of stuff that very proud fishermen put on the wall. But that's about all I can say about it. Then the Draft Punk Concert by Roborock. Again, something that I don't really understand. What I find quite interesting, it looks like it has been built for real. I don't know if it actually has, but this thing is huge. It's one of these designs, you look at it, you can't really understand it, but it's just huge. And again, I'm pretty sure this is just some, concert that I, just don't recognize, but I guess it's by a famous band. Then we have Appa, the Sky Bison by Troyada. Lego did a very similar monster thing. No, I guess Appa is not a monster, right? I mean, he's a cool Sky Bison, but Lego did a very similar set right now with the Fortnite series. So I think they could, just change the color a little bit, and then here you go. And I really like this Fortnite set, so it's all good. And yes, let's have a new other Avatar series by Lego. Would love to see it. We did actually have a ton of Sky Bison ideas entries and Lego ideas, and they make quite a lot of them made the 10,000. Mediterranean Restaurant by BlueBrixx. I mean, this designer is so talented when it comes to buildings, and this thing speaks again for itself. It's so detailed, so amazing. I would love to have it also as a modular building by Lego. Again, I just don't believe that Lego will do modulars like this with ideas. Maybe if they have a very interesting license like Home Alone. But in general, I think they have modulars for being modulars, and ideas is for a different story. But the BlueBrixx stuff is always amazing. Love it. Halloween House by Castor Troy. Yeah, I mean, they just, I think, released a creator. Halloween house, so I don't think they will do this idea thing, but it's a beautiful design. Of course, it's much more detailed than the Lego Creator thing because it has a lot more pieces in there. A couple of interesting building techniques. I've never seen one by one two-third slopes used, in masonry like this. But it's a really cool idea. I definitely will try to remember it one day. Cool building techniques in there, but also in general, really like the design and love, of course, olive green. You can never go wrong with olive green. It looks amazing. And then we have the jellyfish collection by Leon Orsum, and I fear will not make the hour. But anyhow, let's move on. Yeah, I mean, they did insects, so why not do jellyfish? Personally, I would not put jellyfish on the shelf. I can't stay these things, and I guess a lot of folks can't. But in general, I mean, if they are below water and far away from me, they look pretty cool. And there are a couple of very interesting building techniques. Like I said, it's like with this insects or with botanical collection, it's amazing what you can do with Lego pieces nowadays. And I think this mock in this regard speaks for itself. Then we have Disney's Feinies and Ferb Doofenshmirtz Evil Incorporated by Inevitable Brick. Again, something that, where I'm just lacking the pop culture reference here or just don't know it. The design itself is, I guess you need to be a fan for this thing, to like this thing. And then you have Peter Rabbit and the Garden by Shelley Shale. It's a very nice design. However, because there was also a little bit of underground involved, it feels, I don't know, it feels a bit blocky. But what you see on the surface looks quite nice. Nice design on the building, cool tree. And a couple, a little garden as well, a pond. Yeah, it feels like homey. Feels nice and comfortable. Like feels comfy. Feels like, okay, this is, I would like to visit my grandpa who lives in such a house on the countryside. With that, moving on to one of my absolute favorites, and that is Junkyard with Working Magnet Crane by Liam Paradise. I don't know if I need the working magnet crane, but the overall design, it's a freeform mock, i.e. it's not on a base plate, but it really takes it to the extreme. It feels, I don't know, it's just an amazing design. Very cool building techniques. The color collection, with these rusty cars, and the greebling is amazing. It also feels very tight at the same time. I think it's not a small design, but still it feels like very crowded, which is cool. So yeah, all in all, a beautiful design, some very interesting building techniques. Also of the largest building, the roof construction, very simple, but looks really cool. And like I said, the Airstream caravan, or trailer and all these cars, they just look amazing. It's a beautiful mock. The entire composition, I think, feels really great. Then we have again a Muppets idea. Someday Lego has to do the Muppets. Stadler and Waldorf's balcony key rack. So I guess the idea is, I don't know. I guess such a thing is not robust enough to actually use it as a key rack. And, it has to go on a wall, so I'm pretty sure Lego would never do that. But yeah, maybe one day they will do a Stadler and Waldorf. That would be amazing. Then we have E.T., the Extraterrestrial by Koala Brick. So E.T. is a similar situation like with Lover House, like a bazillion idea entries, have made it or I've seen. This is the one that I like the most, I must say, because it has the very famous picture, right, from the poster back in the day. But it combines that with a small diorama, and I think that is a very amazing idea, and also I think an idea that could work very well for other things. So, let's do a Star Wars poster, a famous picture, and you combine this with a small diorama. So there's a lot of potential here, I think, from this idea. And again, I'm not claiming that Koala Brick has come up with this. I'm just saying what I think when looking at it. And when looking at it, I think it's a great design when it comes to the poster itself, but the combination with the minifigures and the diorama is really amazing. Then we have Go Go Power Rangers by Lego Megazord by Lumibricks. Yeah, I guess if you're a Power Rangers fan, having those minifigures will be for you, but I don't know. For me, it's too much color. I'm sorry. The Holiday by Rose Hill Cottage by Martin Studio. Beautiful design again. Nice greebling. Love how the ingot pieces and the masonry bricks have been used here. It's really not easy. I've talked about this so many times also in Mocks of the Week. Doing a good wall with good texturing is really not easy. A lot of people try and they fail. I fail all the time. this stuff either leaks, there's either too much going on, not enough going on, doesn't feel natural. So doing a good job here is highly appreciated. I also really like the idea of making the roofs entirely from ingot pieces, which looks also quite nice. Yeah, love it. Coraline, the Pink Palace by JIESTAR. I don't really know what is going on around the mark, you know, with the black and white stuff here. I guess it's just Photoshop work. But yeah, here you go. If you always want to have this house, we have an idea entry now as well. Then Brooklyn Nine-Nine by Brent Frank. This feels a lot like The Office. Like I've said before, for me, I would like to have a bit more interesting shapes for a sitcom. But yeah, here you go. If The Office was your cup of tea, then you may voting for this one. A Minimorg Analog Synthesizer by EOP1998. I mean, this is a little bit like the typewriter. In theory, a good idea. In practice, I think a boring set, I personally think. But it was very well done here, very accurate. Or at least feels accurate. I've never seen the original. I mean, personally, I would love to have a C64, a Commodore, for instance. But I'm not really sure if that will ever happen. At the end of the day, I also think it's not going to be that interesting. Plus, I think compared to the typewriter, this thing would have zero functionality because, you know, what would you do? You have just a couple of knobs. So yeah, I don't think that's worth a set. A Book Nook, Story Laboratory by Petros Odyssey. I mean, Lego just released 2 or announced 2 Book Nooks, right? Baker Street and the Harry Potter thing. Problem is, I think in order to make a good Book Nook, you need a lot more pieces than Lego is willing to invest. And I think you could see this clearly in the 2 I just mentioned. Lego is just not investing enough. And that is my problem. I think for Book Nook, you need to be willing to invest 2,000 pieces, and Lego is not willing to do so. And I think this would be the problem with this one here as well. So yeah, but in general, nice idea. The working cuckoo clock, I don't know. I live in the region where these come from, like Black Forest. I actually lived in the Black Forest for many, many years. I think there are so many different designs. This one here is a bit too much over the top for me. But in general, yeah, I mean, why not? But the problem is, again, this would be something that you have to put on a wall, and I think that is a bit unpractical for many collectors, right? You want to have something that you can put on a shelf, which is a bit problematic. How I Met Your Mother by BlueBrixx. I built once a mock of How I Met Your Mother. It was actually an alternate build by PL Mocks, I remember, for the Central Park, which was cool. And I think it was watched quite a lot, actually. Very decent interest back in the day. My German channel was very new, so I had only not that many views, but I think this one caught a lot of people, you know, were interested in this one, I guess, just because it's How I Met Your Mother. So I think this could be a sitcom worth looking into by Lego. But again, I personally need nowadays something that is a bit more interesting. I've built Central Perk, and I think with Central Perk, Lego really raised the bar on this one. I think they never really matched that brilliance again. All the other sitcom-y sets that they did after that, including the Friends apartment, never managed, my point of view, to be as good as Central Perk. So I'm waiting personally for another Central Perk. Out of Japan, I think also in my top 3, I think it's the third one of my top 3 list in this round. Beautiful design, color scheme amazing. However, this one here was relatively easy, I think, because I'm pretty sure there's an actual reference. I think there's an artwork that looks like this. But yes, it's beautiful. I would definitely build it and keep it. National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation by Methem Enthusiastic J. I guess, yes, this entry was, I'm pretty sure, made during winter. Nowadays, you know, with 25 degrees Celsius over here in southern Germany, it's really hard to think about a winter set like this one. But yeah, I mean, here you go. I think Lego made Home Alone. I guess they are covered in this regard. But here you go. Quite a large set, actually, this would be, right? It's relatively, there's a lot of stuff in there. Grand Central Station by Mind the Brick. I believe this is not ideas material. I believe Lego should make a Grand Central Station modular in the large size, like with the Natural History Museum. And what Lego should definitely do, what they should have done with the National History Museum, is like what this designer has done, like put some interior in there and, you know, get this thing really detailed. Because I think that I've said this so many times, the National History Museum by Lego felt like an empty shoebox in so many ways, especially the upper floor, if I recall correctly, was just awful from that point of view. I think one of the weakest modulars they've done in recent years. And the simple reason was they did not have enough pieces for this size. That was the problem. This thing would have needed another 1,000 pieces. And I think here, Mind the Brick has gone exactly the correct route, and the result is something that is very busy, very detailed. As a result, looks very nice and charming. And yeah, however, I don't think it's ideas material. This should be a modular. Lego should definitely make a central station one day. And hey, we go, the Griswold family Christmas house by Calculating Fork 047. Yeah, same thing. I don't believe that Lego would make it. Plus, it would not be as big as this one here. Scooby-Doo, the Ravenswood Mansion by Topnuk, also in an updated version. I'm pretty sure I've seen the car before, never the mansion. I mean, it's amazing, right? Scooby-Doo, you know, with the car and the bright colors, and then the mansion, you know, with all these dark gray colors. It's mostly dark brown, dark bluish gray, light bluish gray, a little bit of white in there, and sand blue. I mean, it's a beautiful design, but what is really cool and something Lego could really pull off with the color scheme that they have is the color difference, right, between the car and the mansion. This is the thing, right? This is what Scooby-Doo is all about, right? And I think this would be so amazing to have as a set. Yeah, would love to have it. Would love to see Lego's take on this. And then the Gilmore Girls, Stars Hollow by Brick and Nick. Yeah, I mean, if you're into Gilmore Girls, this may be for you. The design itself feels a little bit too blocky for my taste, but I guess the idea is what counts, and Gilmore Girls is pretty sure a license large enough for Lego to consider. Stonewall National Monument by BlueBrixx. This is interesting, right? Two sides of a road. I think Lego has never done that. Outside of Lego City, of course. And yeah, I mean, it's definitely an interesting concept. The building themselves feel a bit too simple, too blocky for me. But I really like the combination of garden, road, houses. So yeah, here you go. And then you have Paddington Beer by Brick 1980. And yeah, I mean, it's Paddington. That's a cool idea. I also really like this idea. It would take too many pieces, so Lego wouldn't do it like this, I guess. But also, you know, they do a lot of, you know, brick-built droids, for instance. But having this in a small diorama, you know, with a back wall is a really cool idea. Something I would also love to see with all the building, you know, with all the droid work that they do. And other brick-built large figures, but I guess it just consumes too many pieces. But yeah, Paddington, definitely beloved character, would love to see it. Pixar's Pizza Planet Truck by Vico. I actually don't know from which, you know, Pixar production this one is, but here we go. If you know it and if you're interested, this may be for you. And then we have Mary Poppins, Back to Cherry Tree Lane by the Globe Guy. We have seen so many Mary Poppins ideas over the years. I watched it as a kid, haven't seen it for like 35 years minimum. It would be nice to have it, I guess. I just don't know if, you know, the fan base is large enough for this design. And then the world of Studio Ghibli by Junks RX. This is again really at least a design that I really like, because it just, you know, it is again free form. It is very tight. There's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of detail, a lot of greebling, really, really beautiful. So yeah, definitely. Maybe the topic is not really mine, but still love the design. So long story short, like I've said before, my personal favorites are La Katrina, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and special prize for Rob Ross. Just would love to have it. But The Art of Japan, I think it was called, right? The Art of Japan, really beautiful. This thing I would just... Lego, make this thing just exactly like it is here. Nothing else to add. Beautiful design. Anyhow, this is just me. Next to that, I do hope you liked the show. Next week, I will try to get back on Mocks of the Week. Last week we had too many sets. This week we had Lego ideas, but hopefully we can get back on it next week. And yeah, the only last thing to say is thanks for listening. See you next week.